Okay, so the video got cut off, but basically we're in the process of turning 9 over 2 into a fraction over 6. Alright, to turn that fraction into a fraction over 6, what we have to do is we have to multiply the denominator times 3. Whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 9 times 3 will give you 27 over 6. And basically, once we find that, now we can add 1 over 6 to 9 over 2, which is now 27 over 6. So our new equation is going to look like this. 2 over 3x, this cancels out, equals whatever 27 over 6 plus 1 over 6 equals. And that's going to give you 28 over 6. Okay? So our equation is 2 over 3x equals 28 over 6. Next step is to go ahead and divide this 2 over 3. 2 over 3 is multiplied to x, which means the inverse operation would be to divide by 2 over 3. Whenever we divide by a fraction, we are multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, very important that you remember that. Do not just multiply this fraction to the other side. You have to multiply by the reciprocal, which is the inverse of this fraction. So you have to multiply by 3 over 2. 28 over 6 times 3 over 2. 28 times 3 is going to give you 60. And then 24, which is going to give you 84 over 6 times 2, which is 12. All right, then we have basically, we have that x equals, and this is the last step, that x equals 84 over 12. Now, we have to reduce it, okay? You do not have to convert this into a mixed number, but your answers always have to be reduced for my class. So when in doubt, just divide by 2. If you don't know what the greatest common factor is, just divide by 2 because eventually you will get to that greatest common factor. Okay, 84 divided by 2 is going to be 42. 12 divided by 2 is going to be 6. And we can divide this further. Divide by 2 when in doubt. 42 divided by 2 is going to be 21. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. And we know that 21 divided by 3 is going to be 7. And that's your final answer for this problem, okay? That was problem number 31. Sorry for not writing that on the board earlier. This is problem 31, and we are in section 3.2 right now. Okay, so moving on, a little bit more from section 3.2. You have to be able to solve equations in any form that I give them to you, whether they involve fractions or whether they involve decimals, like numbers 41 and 43, which I believe are also on there. Yep. Decimals, that's just the same thing, just involving decimals. And now moving on to section 3.3. This is the last section that's going to be on the test. You have to be able to know how to turn things from fractions to decimals to percents, okay? Remember the percent equation. The percent equation is going to be A equals P percent times B. Okay, you can pretty much solve any percent problem like that. So if you look at number 47, you have a table and you have to fill in the rest of that table. They give you 60%, and you have to fill out the parts out of 100, the decimal version, and the fraction. Okay, remember that percent means per 100, so it's out of 100. 60% will give you 60 out of 100. So in that part of the table that it tells you parts out of 100, the answer would just be 60. The decimal, remember that percent is just a division by 100. Whenever you divide something by 100, you are moving the original decimal place over to the left because it's division. Division means to the left 2 times. 1, 2. Why 2 times? Because of the number of zeros that we have, okay? So you're moving 1, 2, 1, 2 to right here. So the decimal would be 0.60 or just 0.6. Okay, we're not dealing with measurements, so there's no significant figures involved, just 0.6, put it in the simplest form. Fraction form, basically what you would do is you would take this 60 over 100 and you would reduce it as much as possible. When in doubt, divide by 2. Or just think about the fact that you have a 60 over 100. Whenever you have zeros on top of each other, you can cancel them out. 6 over 10 does reduce into 3 over 5. That's going to be 3 over 5. You have to be able to fill out tables like that and just tell me the different forms of the percentages. But more importantly than that is turning word problems like you see in numbers 55 to 60 into actual percentages. So let's do one of those, and then we will have one about pricing stuff. Okay. So this is the last thing we'll go over. Using the percent equation, please find what number is 125% of 16. So 125% of 16. What number is 125% of 16? Remember to use what we have, those clues about word problems that tell us what the operations are. Remember that the word of always means multiplication. Okay? What number? That's going to be basically your answer. A, they set it up for us, all right? A equals P percent times B. We just plug in what we know. A is going to be what number? We don't know what A is, so A is going to be the answer. P percent, 125%, times B, which is 16. Okay? We go ahead and we try to solve that. 125% times 16. What you're going to do is basically remember that percent is going to be 125% per 100. Multiply that times 16. You put it over 1 because there's nothing under it. Whenever you have a whole number, you basically know that that's a number over 1. Multiply that through. You would get 100 on the bottom. 125 times 16, you would have to solve that. Remember, no calculators on this test. 125 times 16, I'm not going to waste time. I'm just going to go ahead and do it in my calculator. You get 2,000. 125 times 16 gives you 2,000, and then you simplify. You have 2 zeros on the top, 2 zeros on the bottom. That's going to be 20 over 1. Okay, so you have that A equals 20 over 1, or A equals 20. The number 20 is 125%. It is bigger than 16, so that is your final answer there. Okay, please make sure that you know how to do that in every which way. Okay, so look at those examples and solve them. Okay, and that's pretty much it. The last thing that you will have to know is the difference between the selling price, the costs, and all of that stuff that we went over yesterday, but do not worry about very complicated problems like the ones that we had in the beginning in the warm-up of class yesterday. Okay, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you can just email me.